Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware. Today we're taking a look at this i7 base system, which is a fantastic value that I found at the local level. That would be the Facebook Marketplace in this particular case. But we're going to talk about this system, talk about some of the value that you can get out of these local PCs that just pop up near you. But all of that comes right after a message from our sponsor. This video's sponsor is urcd.com, where you can get game keys and software keys for your favorite platforms all in one place. And this is also the perfect place to pick up a Windows 10 Pro key for the new PC you just built. In fact, right now you can get 20% off of Windows 10 Pro by entering promo code H20 when you check out. For more information on picking up your own copy of Windows 10 Pro or just checking out the rest of the website and the cheap keys that you can get there, check out the link in the description down below. Okay, so like I mentioned, this system packs a lot of value for a very inexpensive cost. As I sort of throw some B-roll out there as well as throw out these specs here for you, let's just sort of go through the system. We have an i7 3770 base system here. That's a non-K variant on a motherboard from Intel that actually has some nice cooling on the VRMs. So the VRMs are actually really nice on this motherboard, at least their cooling should be. And because it's a 3770 that we're not overclocking, this motherboard is just fine for this CPU. What's not just fine for this particular CPU and this motherboard combination is the cooler. Although it does an okay job in gaming workflows, this particular Intel stock cooler, it does have a copper core on the bottom of it there that does make contact with the CPU. Hey Jack, what's up bud? My dog just walked in, so he's gonna hang out over there by the camera. So regardless of this having some copper contact with the CPU, this cooler is very much insufficient for a lot of chips, and the 3770 unfortunately is no different. Under a synthetic load, this thing will thermal throttle eventually, though under a gaming load with an extended run of Unigine Valley's benchmarks, it was just fine. It was sort of in the low 70s. Every now and then it would pop to the mid 70s, but as soon as the fan would ramp up on it, it would drive those CPU temps back down. But of course, that's just a gaming load. If you're doing anything that's a heavy load on the CPU for an extended period of time, this cooler will struggle. That being said, we do have 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM here. We have two different 4 gigabyte kits, or rather two different 4x2 gigabyte kits. We have a Ripjaws kit here, and we have a Corsair Vengeance kit here. So they don't really match up, and they don't even really match the aesthetic of the motherboard. We have a blue and black motherboard with red RAM and black RAM, but it all came with the PC, and it was a good price, so we'll go with it. For storage, we do have a 240 gigabyte SSD here, and then we do have a 350 watt power supply, though it does have over 300 watts available to the 12 volt rails, which is great because we have a little bit of spare room considering all the components in this system where they're only pulling about 270 watts, so we have some headroom. We don't need to replace the PSU, even though we do have to use one of these Molex to 6-pin adapters. Shouldn't be a big deal. Now the case is a little bit antiquated at this point. It is a mid-tower Antec case, but it does house all the components just fine, so there's no reason to swap it out. It's actually in pretty good shape for that matter as well. There's just a couple little minor scuffs on it, and it came with two fans, a back exhaust and a top exhaust, which I might always move one of those exhaust fans back to the front to be an intake, but it does have a decent airflow in this case, and no hotter than these components get. It's probably fine in its current configuration because the CPU is not getting hot because there's no airflow. The CPU seems to be more getting hot just because the cooler on it is a really small and underpowered cooler. Not something that I'm sure moving one of these fans to the front would actually cure, but it may give us a more consistent airflow if we move one of the fans, so I still might play around with that a little bit. Not today though. So now this whole system together is a great value, and I already mentioned that I thought it was a great value, but how good of a value? I got the PC for $130, and that included everything except the GTX 960 2GB card. Now, this 2GB 960, you can get these all day. You can get these all day long right now on eBay for about $80, give or take a few bucks depending on the day and depending on the market that you're in. But the 960s are not an expensive card, so you can put this entire system together, or at least I was able to put this whole system together for about $205, $210 really depending on what kind of deal you're getting on your GTX 960. I think I got mine for a little bit cheaper than that, so I'm probably floating just barely above the $200 price point with this system. Now, at the moment, I am not planning on going back and retesting this GTX 960. I already tested this card to see if it would function in 2019, and the answer is yes, it will, provided that you're willing to play with settings a little bit in games. And I don't expect the i7-3770 to bottleneck that GTX 960 whatsoever. I fully anticipate in its current configuration right now, this GPU is the bottleneck. So right now, I'm not planning on going through and running the full slate of benchmarks of 5 or 6 different games on this system, because I kind of already know how a 960 performs, and there's very little doubt in my mind that the i7-3770 will keep the 960 fed just fine as far as frames go. So the bottleneck here is probably the GPU, and I'm hoping that it comes through, and I have some feelers out right now, but I have a 1063 gigabyte card that I'm trying to get on a deal locally for about $65. And if that deal goes through, I will probably come back and add that to the build and create yet another video on this build and probably reference this one as well. But if I can get that card, then we have a system that comes in at under $200 that's a fantastic value, and at 1080p gaming is going to give us great performance for less than $200. So that's the quick explanation of this local build combined with an eBay GPU here. Let me know what you think of this type of build. Have you bought locally before? And if you have, what kind of value have you been able to extract from your local market? Let me know in those comments down below. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are very helpful to the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.